Hello everyone, welcome to today's session where we're going to look at the essay Selected Snobberies by Aldous Huxley. Aldous Huxley is mostly known as a novelist and essayist, but he has also written short stories, poetry, travelogues, and even film scripts. And in his writings, especially in novels and essays, he plays the role of a critical observer of the accepted traditions, customs, social norms, and ideals. He also seems deeply concerned with the problems of life as he witnessed both the world wars, and perhaps it was the grimness of the war which shocked and compelled him to turn a new leaf. And as in the later part of his life, he left England and settled in California in order to or he devoted himself completely in the pursuit of what he called his perennial philosophy. And if we see his prose style, then it faithfully mirrors his tremendous mental capacity, as with a wonderful sweep of his mind, his style is always lucid. And while reading his works, we can very well sense that he is quite fond of paradoxes. Paradoxes are essential part of his all the writings, and his style is remarkably witty and also reflective of his amazing energy, clarity, and precision. And for better understanding of this essay, it is very essential to understand the meanings or understand what does it mean by the words snob and snobbery. For this purpose, I have collected several definitions. I will read them one by one, and we'll try to understand what exactly, or what is a snob, what does it mean by being becoming a snob or snobbishness. So let's begin with first definition, which states snob is a person who respects and likes only people who are of a high social class, or a person who has extremely high standards, who is not satisfied by the things that ordinary people like. Let's see what second definition tells. Snob is a person who judges the importance of people mainly by their social position or wealth, and who believes social position or wealth makes one person better than others. After these two definitions, we can say that snob is a pejorative term about a person who believes that there is a correlation between social status and human worth. Now, let's see what third definition states. A snob can also be a person who gives a very high value to any quality which that person believes makes him or her better than other people. In this way, snob refers to a person who feels superiority over those who belong to lower social class or in education levels. Now, the last one which is displayed on screen, is a person who wishes to be snob is a person who wishes to be seen as a member of the upper classes and who looks down on those perceived to have inferior or unrefined taste. In this way, an individual snob creates a mindset of entitlement. So after this basic understanding about what does it mean by a snobbish person, or what is a snob, we can define snobbery as a tendency or an overbearing pride to associate with only a select group, which is very much related to clannishness or exclusiveness, and which arises or which becomes and this exclusiveness or this snobbery causes due to the belief when a person believes that he or she is inherently better than others. So this is what snob or snobbery means, and it will be more clear when we read the essay, in which very wonderfully Huxley has discussed in his own peculiar style. So the essay Selected Snobberies by Aldous Huxley, we are going to start, in which Huxley, as we have already discussed, that Huxley is a social critic who watched mankind very minutely. And in this essay, he has discussed, or he is discussing, different kinds of snobberies in the people. The selected snobberies are, his selected snobberies are disease snobbery, booze snobbery, modernity snobbery, art snobbery, and culture snobbery. So let's begin the reading of the text. I'm reading it. All men are snobs about something. One is almost tempted to add, there is nothing about which man cannot feel snobbish. So, in his very lucid and natural style, Huxley begins with the simple statement that every man is a snob in one way or other. And one is almost tempted to add that there is nothing about which man cannot feel snobbish, that in this world people can feel snobbish about everything. There is nothing with which people can't feel snobbish. But this would doubtless be an exaggeration. It will be exaggerated, a bit exaggerated, to say that there is nothing about which people can't feel snobbish, because so in to tell you in advance, here Huxley is beginning with his analysis of disease snobbery, and in his critical explanation of disease snobbery, Huxley is saying further, there are certain disfiguring and mortal diseases about which there has probably never been any snobbery. I cannot imagine, for example, that there are any leprosy snobs. So here he's saying that though disease snobberies are very common, and there are good number of people who are disease snobs, but it is very difficult to find, or it is quite impossible that there will be any any man or any person who feels snobbish about this disease, which is leprosy. Leprosy is an infectious disease which causes silvery scales on the body. So such disfiguring and deadly diseases are except these diseases, people are people are inclined to feel snobbish. But these are the exceptions, like leprosy. There we can't find any leprosy snob. People can't feel snobbish with this disease, this particular disease. So in the very starting, he has cleared this fact that except this particular disease, or the diseases which are disfiguring and mortal diseases, people are snobbish with almost every kind of disease, which there has probably never been any snobbery. I cannot imagine, for example, that there are any leprosy snobs. More picturesque diseases, even when they are dangerous, and less dangerous diseases, particularly when they are the diseases of the rich, can be and very frequently are a source of snobbish self-importance. Now, more picturesque, the diseases which are vivid and graphic, and the diseases especially which are belong to rich people, which are typically belong to rich people. People feel when people declare it, or especially this snobbishness is related to it is based on the fact that when people pretend to have this disease, or when people will flaunt or show off that they are suffering from that particular disease, that there are certain picturesque diseases, when people declare this, then they are stating, or they are showing that they are rich people. That's why they are suffering from those particular diseases which are meant for rich people. This is a snobbishness, even when they are dangerous and less dangerous diseases, particularly when they are the diseases of the rich, can be and very frequently are a source of snobbish, because people feel that it is a matter of importance that they are suffering from this particular disease, which is famously known as the disease of rich people. Especially I hope that you can guess the disease name, especially the disease which is related to consumption, which is a tuberculosis. And in the next lines, Huxley is clearing or elaborating this fact related to tuberculosis. I have met several adolescent consumption snobs who thought that it would be romantic to fade away in the flower of youth like Keats or Mary Bashkirtseff. Now, Huxley is telling his personal experience that I have met certain young ones who are consumption. Here, consumption is for tuberculosis. Consumption snobs who think that it would be very romantic. It is a romantic idea to die like Keats or Mary Bashkirtseff. Now, here very clearly Huxley is referring to the great romantic poet John Keats and this famous Russian painter Mary Bashkirtseff, who unfortunately died in the prime of their age, who contracted this disease, tuberculosis, and died of it. So in this way, there are certain young ones who feel that it is very romantic, like Keats and Mary, to die of tuberculosis or consumption. Alas, the final stages of the consumptive fading are generally a good deal less romantic than these ingenuous young tubercle snobs seem to imagine. But it is a regrettable part that the end of these young snobs who feel pride in having this disease to them, these naive young tuberculosis snobs can't imagine, or the end of these consumptive or these tuberculosis snobs, disease snobs, is not as romantic as they imagine, as they seem to imagine it, or as they imagine it. It is not as romantic as it is painful and miserable to anyone who has actually witnessed these final stages. The complacent poeticizings of these adolescents must seem as exasperating as they are profoundly pathetic. Actually, these young people, or the complacent, self-satisfied, and the sentimental imaginings of these young people, due to these sentimental imaginings and self-satisfied attitude, because of their snobbishness, these people have no idea about the misery and sufferings suffered by these young artists, Keats and Mary. And that's why they can't feel it, that how exasperating it is, how frustrated or how tiresome or how miserable it was profoundly pathetic, but they can't imagine, they don't have idea, and that's why they are snobbish about this, that there is very romantic, it is very romantic to have a disease like the same disease which any popular figure uh, suffered from. In the case of those commoner disease snobs whose claim to distinction is that they suffer from one of the maladies of the rich, exasperation is not tempered by very much sympathy. So now Huxley is now here talking about the snobberies which are related to rich people. There are certain people who feel or who consider themselves rich people, and who claim to distinction, who feel very pride to say or to declare that they are suffering from several maladies, and it is due to the fact because they are rich, that's why they are disease snobs, and they are disease snobs because they want to flaunt their richness, and that's why they declared with very proud, with distinction, that they are suffering from certain maladies. Exasperation is not tempered by very much sympathy, but this exasperation, their frustration, irritation, or their provokement, we can't adjust or we can't control their frustration or irritation by sympathy on our part. In other words, we can't show or we can't display sympathy towards such kind of people who are displaying their diseases, or who are pretending to have diseases which are as I've told you, that which are associated with rich people. People who possess sufficient leisure, sufficient wealth, not to mention sufficient health, to go traveling from spa to spa, from doctor to fashionable doctor, in search of cures from problematical diseases. Now, in the modern time, there are people who in modern time, people are actually suffering from diseases, or people are contracted because due to their lack of activity, sufficient leisure, and richness, and despite having good health, they hunt cure, or they seek cure by running from spa to spa, from one fashionable doctor to another. It is their snobbishness, in order to, in the attempt to display themselves rich people, or the people or because they are having the same kind of disease which is which is typically belong to higher class or rich class, or some special kind of people, in search of cures from problematic diseases, which insofar as they exist at all, probably have their source in overeating. Now, Huxley is clearing here that these people feel that they are suffering from diseases due to overeating. Actually, they eat more than they can digest, and that's why they feel that they are suffering from many types of diseases. Cannot expect us to be very lavish in our solicitude and pity. And such people don't deserve our compassion. Such people don't deserve our concern and pity, because it is a mere display of their snobbishness and nothing else. So we stop at this point today. We'll see you in the next lecture. Thank you for listening.